welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition. That's with a K, Koalition.com. And I'm joined by editor-in-chief of the Koalition, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown Show over on Twitch, Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
Oh, what's going on? We got a lot to say, people. We got a lot to say. All right. So real quick housekeeping here. Thanks again for all of the support over on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes. We're getting a lot of subs, a lot of views, a lot of interest, not just for this, but of course for Walking Dead. It's always good to see people are still engaged. A lot more people jumped back into the franchise thanks to this being with Rick and Michonne, founding members. So not surprised there, but we got some stuff to say about this episode because this is a season 1, episode 4. What we that's the title. And just so you know, there's only 6 episodes for this season, so we're almost done. And that's so if you haven't seen this, you can go on AMC Plus, watch it, or if you're watching this after you've already seen it on AMC on cable, then there you go. But if not, just a warning, we're going to spoil this if you haven't seen it already. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Boop. This was the worst episode so far. This was such a filler episode. Now, I get it. The actress that plays Michonne, she wrote this, and that's great. It's I can't really blame her too much with the writing because I'm sure the overarching story she still had to work around. We still have Gimple and them in charge of this project. So I'm sure there was a lot more of like direction and other things, and she sort of talked about it in post. And that's fine. But man, I can't be the only one, people. You can leave in the comments. It can't just be me. Did you not feel like this was dragging? Just the story back and forth. Oh, is he going to come? No, I can't go. Don't you understand? I have to stay to save you. Are they coming and invade? Well, they could. So you don't know? I don't know, but I got to stay. It was on and on. And yeah, they moved around. And we'll get to it, but it was still the same. Will he, won't he? Will he, won't? We all know he will, or else the show's over. She walks out, it's over, blah, blah, blah. We're done. So we knew it was going to happen, but man, to waste a whole episode of just her, Michonne trying to convince Rick, hey, finally, she announces, we got RJ, we got another kid here. You would think common sense, once anybody, parents that are listening and watching this show know. First, if you know about one kid, but then you hear about another kid, that would be a priority, right? That would be the priority. But if not, then I don't know. It's up to you. What do you guys think?
I would like Richard Bailey to go first.
Well, my response is very simple. I agree 100% with what Adam said. It was a filler episode. I understand the point of having them wrestle with their relationship. I get all that. And I actually knew that this episode was going to mainly be about these two characters. So I'm okay with that. But there's some stuff about this episode that is way too convenient. Now, obviously, you saw them land into that water, and then they magically go into this building. There's no security. There's no breaking the entry to get inside. Nothing. Just walk into the building. And I like how the entire episode, they're trying to escape. But yet, conveniently, the building does not fall down until they have resolved all their issues, and then they walk out at the end. Complete BS. That's my response. Let's hear what Carlos has to say.
No, I agree. I agree with the sentiments. I felt like this was a filler episode. Unfortunately, a lot of the tensions that were created of this episode, the only reason they're created is because they needed to do something and fill in time, because the inevitability of the actions that were going to be taken, we already knew were going to happen. And it's not like, it's just crazy because we expected this. And this whole thing with Rick, he's portraying this character that is supposedly is broken and brainwashed and all that stuff, but we only got part of it. So it's hard. Like most of the parts that we got from Rick throughout this journey of the first couple of episodes were him just rebelling and being a strong character and fighting back and going after try and defying his superiors and doing all this stuff. But then, now we're at the point where he's broken, and we just never really saw that.
Yeah, we never saw that. Yeah, that was my issue. We never saw him fully break down into Stockholm syndrome, where it's like, all right, I'm all in. We never got to that. It was constantly like, oh, I have to save her. And even when he found her, what did he say? I got to bring you along. We're gonna get away out of this. If he wasn't fully converted at that point, because then he could have just said, hey, you gotta go back to Judith and everything. I gotta do what I have to do with these people. This is my angle. Thanks for coming. Bye. Go ahead, Carl. Sorry.
No, I agree. I feel like it's just trying to come up with a conflict on the fly and then resolving the conflict within the episode. And the conflict, we're supposed to take it serious as a major conflict and as a major liability and as a major flaw for the main character. But how can we take it seriously when it was resolved within a couple of sex scenes and kisses?
Wow. Well, let me just make a quick comment, because I'm going to play devil's advocate. This is what the AMC person will say after this episode. Well, we had a very intricate scene for Rick in the first episode where he was contemplating suicide. So that can show you the emotional struggle he had with deciding, oh, I'm going to try to escape, but now I can't escape, and so on and so forth. So that is our reasoning for why we did not show him break down further down as a character. That's what that's what they would say.
And then everybody in the room would just roll their eyes. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? And it was back and forth, like you said, right from the beginning. Falling out of the helicopter, that was our thing. We were trying to figure out, was it a body of water? Only makes sense unless they had parachutes. I didn't see the parachutes, and clearly they didn't. Right, so they fall in the body of water, they crawl out, they find this really nice modernized building. It's got Roombas, it's a smart home. Every apartment is a smart home. It's setting room temperatures and all this stuff. Like you mentioned, no security. How was this not ransacked before? I don't know. Maybe it's out in the woods somewhere. We weren't too sure where they jumped out. They didn't show a location. We see a lot of nice scenery, trees, and then they show the helicopter crash right off in the distance. How? Yeah, we get it. It was a storm, but what were they looking? Were they circling around and see what? I don't know. Bad pilot. Well, if you go based off Richard, what we said before, when originally we saw Rick in the helicopter, was he the pilot? So she just take the pilot out, and I was like, hey, you know how to fly? I'm like, no, oh, and then they died. I don't know.
Well,
but
I'm just going to say that was confusing, because they were passengers in the plane. So how the hell did them getting thrown out the plane somehow? The helicopter. How did all of a sudden them getting thrown out of the helicopter impact the helicopter to the point where it crashed? That didn't make any sense. So we should have saw that.
Yeah.
That's very confusing.
Oh, it's this whole episode is confusing, because then at that point you're like, oh, we're free. Michelle's like, oh, we could go. We're done. This is that. And then, give me the tracker. No, it's not done. We have to let them know. What's wrong with you? She tells him about RJ. She tells him all the stuff. Well, we got kids. We got a call. We got to go back. It's like, why are you prolonging this back and forth nonsense when we saw that for the first two episodes, or especially the first episode, of him writing those notes, throwing them into the ocean, or just keep them. Remember, he was like, I'm not sure if they're going to find this, cutting off his hand, not wanting to get promoted up because he was like, I need to be out of it because I'm going to find another way to escape, telling his buddy on the bench, I got to get back to my fam, got to do all this stuff. And then finally he gets to do this. And then he's like, no, we have to go back. No, we have to go back. I'm doing this to save you and everybody. It just doesn't add up. And even with they could say with Jadis. Oh, well, remember Jadis came in the picture. She threatened him and his family. Still, there's no proof of that. And now the helicopter has crashed and burned. A full investigation would have to happen. Oh, but wait, there will be no investigation, because how does the CRM address these type of issues? They go and they blow it up for no evidence. So they just disintegrate and in turn cause problems to the structure of the building that they're in, right? And then now that's falling apart, and all the people that lived in that building, I guess the walkers, they wake up and now they're all around, and then that's where we get to the whole thing of them running from apartment to apartment. And instead of him just waking up, they're having the same arguments in each apartment. They go to another room, they fight some walkers, they get I was like, all right, we gotta go this. No, we gotta go back. We gotta go. No. And she's like, what did they do to you? What did they do to you? Yeah, we want to know what they did because they didn't show us. Was he tortured? Did something crazy happen? None of that was talked about because we didn't see it, because it made it seem like he was okay. Until even just the episode of the first, when he found her and he was like, all right, listen, we're going to escape together. He didn't just send her off. He didn't say, hey, this is my new life now. I'm a soldier. You're going to live with me here. What about our kids? Forget the kids. This is our new life. No. So I don't buy into all this. And that's why when we're looking at the minutes, and we're like, all right, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's a 54-minute episode, and we're still arguing about the same thing. This is a long argument that should have just ended within once that helicopter blew up. And they're like, well, now we can go.
Well, I know why they did this. I'll explain this a little bit in a little detail. Obviously, the whole thing with Rick being conflicted, obviously, they wanted to get to the root of the problem. It's not more so just the fact that he's saying, oh, I got to go back to protect the family. When they had the conversation with him and Michonne towards the end of the episode, he says, oh, I don't want to lose you again. I had these dreams about you and Carl. I don't want to lose you again. Obviously, we know as Walking Dead viewers that he lost Carl in that show. So I understand what they were trying to say, which is why he figured, well, let me just forget because it will hurt a lot less. But you have no control over what happens in life. As far as, you can have a partner, something could happen to that person anyway. And this is in real life. So you go into this fully embracing the relationship and still do whatever. It's kind of ridiculous. It took all of this for Rick to finally understand, oh, yeah, I still need to be with you. I still want to be with my family. It's very silly. And this is a comment that I do want to make. I didn't want to jump too far ahead. But when I saw the fact that they had to reference Carl, that's when I thought to myself, why the hell did they take this actor off the show? We already know about the stuff with him wanting to go to college and so on and so forth, and they didn't want to pay him more. But that tells me Carl should still be a part of this, because it would have been more of a, I guess, satisfying thing to see him and Michonne go and find Rick, because again, now he sees his son and his wife. That would have made this a totally different type of vibe. He wouldn't have to second guess anything. But again, that's their decision to get rid of him, take him off the show. So I didn't like that.
It also makes you wonder if they cut some scenes out. Like that, when he was showing those flashbacks of him walking with young Carl, holding his hand and stuff. I wonder if that was part of the memories, the dreams that he was having. We only saw the Michonne ones on the bench.
Exactly.
We didn't see those. That would have been great to see. Some of those moments, or maybe some moments of him just holding him as a baby, or holding Judith as a baby, or some, it said we didn't see any of that until this little flashback, and maybe they just left that in there and forgot. Oh, cutting room floor, we cut all those scenes with young Carl out. So the viewers are going to be like, well, we didn't see him have any of these dreams. He didn't even mention Carl's name.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And the thing is, if I recall from the original Walking Dead, Carl had a very good relationship with Michonne. So again, it would have been great if they didn't kill off that character and him and Michonne were the ones that had to go find Rick. It just would have been better. And then Rick wouldn't have to second guess anything. He'll be like, oh, my son is here. My wife is here. I need to go back with them. It's simple, straight to the point. But that's their decision. AMC messed up with their decision to take him off the show.
And not the decision of Glenn dying. I don't think that was fine. Carl dying was the worst decision for this show. Should have never happened. Should have never happened. It ruined everything. As much as they tried, and then they tried to do it. Was it Henry? Remember, they threw Henry in, and they were giving a lot of his stuff that was for Carl that was in the comics. They were putting on Henry, and it was like, you made it seem like you were going to go in a different direction, which is why you got rid of the character. But really, you lied, because you gave all those lines and choices to another character doing the same thing, same age group. It was horrible, and like you said, it's very obvious here with this moment. And and I wish there was a lot more we could say, but this was pretty much the episode. It was just constant back and forth with the same thing. You need to come. What they do to you? Why can't you do that? I'm doing to save you. Save me from what? Do you know they're coming? Well, they sort of do. I mean, dude, she didn't even. Michonne could have still brought up. It's like, well, they pretty much everyone left Alexandria. There's a whole big thing going on. There's a lot of other dialogue they could have added, but instead we were just going back and forth. Now, it didn't do it, and I was expecting. When we saw that CRM helicopter that showed up, destroy the helicopter, maybe they would come down and search the area for survivors or something like that. No search, no nothing. They go, they destroyed whatever remains of CRM, and then they take off and they leave. And that was also kind of silly. So, because if they make it seem like they care so much about Rick, like he's such a big important character, you search, right, to see if anyone survived. And no, it doesn't happen. But yeah, he still wants to go back. And then again, he keeps saying, oh, well, it's just me and Thorne, and we have to continue. We got to change it from within. 2 people from this huge organization are going to change for what? For what? You're losing, like you said, Carpe Diem, seize the day. Your wife is in front of you. She wants to go back where the kids are. You go. You don't go back and try to change or hopefully change the world to never see these people again. And then how do you know it even works? And then it doesn't come around toward the end when even Michonne talks about, because I blanked that. I forgot. Remember, she was captive as a prisoner for like a year. And she lost contact with Judith during that whole time. So she still doesn't know. So they could technically be all dead in her mind. She doesn't know what happened. It's just so frustrating. It's frustrating as just a viewer or someone that's thinking with clear eyes, just how you would react as a person in this world. People, would you have reacted the same way as Rick, knowing that your wife is in front of you, you have 2 kids now back home? Would you still say, no, I need to stay and try to change everything here, which is most likely out of his control, but still do that and leave all this that's real in front of him? He kept saying it over and over again, I love you, you're what kept me going, and this and this and that. But then doing the opposite, that doesn't make sense. Most people, from what we've seen, I've never seen it, I'm not brainwashed, but most people that are super brainwashed only see things one way. So if that's the case, if he's CRM for life, then it's forget her. It's like, hey, you either come with me or you don't. That's it. I'm going back. What about the kids? Tell them I'm doing it for them. That's it. Gotta go. Bye. But he doesn't do that. So he's not fully brought in and brainwashed. So why is this still happening? Oh, man. Carlos, how happy were you about this episode? Did you love it?
Well, no. I just, honestly, I feel like it's a little bit of a waste of time trying to get deep into it, because whatever happened in this episode is just what happened in this episode. It doesn't have ramifications towards what's the larger deal of what the show's supposed to be. It's it's them going from we're deciding whether we're together or not. And that was what this whole episode was, and it was a facade, because we already know they're going to be together, and the conflict lasted for half an episode or around 1 episode at most. So we can go in the ins and outs of what Rick was saying, what Michonne was saying, but at the end of the day, it's just we wanted to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible, but we needed to fill episode 4 to do something, and it ended up being this.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because what did we spend most of our time trying to figure out? The timeline of some of these devices in the house. And they were like, oh, the Roomba. It's like, when was that created? Oh, when they found that hybrid car. I'm like, a hybrid car? Hybrid car?
Oh, it's a stick shift.
Yeah, right. I was like, what? That's such a hybrid. I had to look it up. 1999. So yeah, it could have been around during that time, but it was just so weird. Some of the things, and then at the end, they're all happy and they're like, "All right, this is it. Let's go."
And then they're making love, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
man,
And
man, I didn't like this episode.
And then at the end, you have Scott Gimple say, "Well, this would be the end of the show, but this is The Walking Dead." So that right there is like, okay, yeah. So let's just like you said, Carlos, there is no indication of what's next after this episode. There's no threat of danger of Jadis or anybody coming after them because you didn't see no one in this episode. So that's why it's like, yeah, this could have been the end of the show.
And it leads to something that I talked about in the previous episodes. It's like when Rick and Michonne met, they spent more time kissing than actually talking about what the hell's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my biggest issue with the first couple of episodes, and it just all came down into this one in the most extreme conditions, and it took the whole entire episode. And so instead of sprinkling stuff with episode 1, 2, 3, they put it all in this one, where Michonne and Rick fought. Somehow Rick comes back, but then they fight again. And then Rick tells her to leave and doesn't need to be there. And now she's telling him about the kid. Oh, now I'm telling him about my visions with Carl, which we didn't know. I wish they would have shown at least one vision. I know they showed the Michonne ones, but they never shown the visions with Carl. So you want us to believe that Rick was broken? Well, you did a bad job of showing it in the first couple of episodes, and that's just my big issue.
Yeah. Because then if that's kid's that broken, he wouldn't have shown all that emotion toward her. He would have already put her in his rearview mirror. It was like, I'm done. That's it. That's my old life. This is my new life. But he didn't do that. And he was doing it. And even this, he's kissing her and he's doing the whole thing. So you're emotionally attached, but then it still makes no sense of why you want to stay. And she kept saying it. It's like, what really happened? What really happened? And I was expecting them to show us something that we didn't see. Maybe there was some torturing in a room with bright lights. I was like, CRM for life, CRM for life, and it's shocks or something. No, he says that what destroyed him, what really broke him, was that he could no longer see her in his dreams or Carl. And that's when we got the little flash with Carl. We didn't even see that with
Michonne,
of that she just disappeared and stuff. What do you mean that you could no longer see? And this,
we did see that in the first episode where he had a dream with her, she disappeared, and then he woke up, and that was when he was about to get ready to go on a mission. So we did see her disappear in the dream, but we never saw Carl.
Yeah, no, I thought what he was saying is that I was expecting to see like he goes to the bench and she never shows up, type of thing. Like she's out of the dream, like she was there. She was like, we got to go this, and she was talking and like something was happening. But I was expecting that he would, or they would show that he has dreams now like that, like just sitting in the bench and just doing other things, or he's working. And so like she's out of sight, out of mind type of thing, gone. And that we didn't get. And clearly when he saw her in the first episode, he still had the feelings. So this whole thing of running around, then they threw other things with the chandelier thing falling. And it's like, oh, is someone going to die here? They're trapped. No. She's not going to die there. Michonne's not going to die there. They get intimate, and we're like, all right, this is it. This is going to be the trigger. He'll snap out. Now they have that emotional connection. They have sex, all that stuff. And he still says it right afterwards that he has to go back. He sees the scar. He asks about that on Michonne's back. That was a fantastic episode. Remember when she was found her college buddy, and with the kids that woman said she was saving, and the whole thing really just trying to take more kids, and that was brutal. Great episode. She killed everybody, and he was like, "Did you kill her?" He's like, "Yeah," and a lot of other people. Remember that was a controversial one because they didn't show it, but she killed a few kids. But he didn't say anything about Daryl. He didn't ask about Daryl, which is come on now. That's your boy. Well, you're gonna not bring up Daryl. All right, we get it. But and there was just a lot of that. So not much besides this back and forth happened in this episode, which is why we're screaming filler. Because the way I see it, this episode, if someone's like, well, we always hear this, people always say, well, how would you have put it together, Mr. Know-It-All? You think it got to go? Oh, yeah, I got it. It crashes. You want to go with that? All right, they jump out the water, jump out of the helicopter, land in the water, crawl their way up, find this location. have their argument, give it the 10 or 15 minutes back and forth, get to the sex scene, get to the heart-to-heart while they're there, where he's looking up, laying next to her saying, all right, this is what's going on. I kept having these dreams. It's going on. Snap out of it. Now let's go. This is it. We just saw the helicopter blow up. You can have that blow up scene after everything happened. Then show the other helicopter coming in. Maybe have the helicopter have some soldiers come out, get deployed just to search the area. And then it's like, hey, we got to take them out. They're going to try to find us. Then when you do that, take the hand off, throw that into the fire that has everything. So even if Jadis decides to show up again, just to really see, because it's going to happen. They put themselves in a bad spot by doing that helicopter coming in to destroy all evidence. Because then how are you going to explain Jadis not believing? Because that's what's going to end up happening, right? They're going to have Jadis or somebody not believe.
You are 1,000% correct. And what I think they're going to end up doing is that eventually Rick and Michonne, as they journey to try to get back, they're going to run into Jadis, and that unless Jadis is already there waiting when they get back. That will be probably how the season ends. When they finally get back, Jadis is already there, and it's like, how is she going to suspect? Oh yeah, they had to survive, but they destroyed the helicopter. It's a very stupid explanation, but they're probably going to have that as a cliffhanger to end the season.
And then that brings up other questions then. All right, so they get back. They get back to Alexandria. Do you have the cast members there? Do you have Aaron and a few other people that were there? Do you have them there? Or do you have it where they show up and they show the set, but no one's there? Why? Because they went to the Commonwealth. So they show up confused, and the only person that is there is Jadis. And that's where you get the dun, dun, dun. But from what we've seen from the teaser at the end of this episode, now it's Michonne saying that we can never go home. We can't finish it. So again, it goes back to full circle, because their plan now is, this is what we said from the first episode when we're like, what's the premise of this show? What's the whole point? Just to save him? No. The whole point is to not just save him, but to take down the CRM, together. We thought they were going to try to do it from within while they were both there, which would have made sense. Sabotage, cause problems and all this stuff. Try to gather some other people that don't want to be there, because clearly not everybody wants to be tethered to a guy in the back and then killing walkers. There's got to be some other, quote-unquote freedom fighters in this group. We didn't get any of that, right? So instead, now we have them out on the run on their way home. So we think, but then that teaser, the way they have it with Michonne, and it could just be the way they cut and did the edits, but she makes it seem like, no, you know what, you're right. Now let's work together and destroy them. Let's go back and destroy them, so that way they never come after us. It's like, oh, man, if that's the case, I really do hope they bring Ezekiel and all the other people, regroup at least on that front. Don't just tell me it's going to be an army of two versus the CRM. It's not happening. It's not believable. And I know The Walking Dead for the longest time, and even here, they're like, oh, real emotion, people feel. Well, then if you're trying to go one way, you can't go the other way. You can't, it's like you can't do both. You got to just be down the middle. If you're going for something more relatable, believable of approach, then yeah, you're going with the emotional, then we're going with the reasonable and logical. And it does not make logical sense for two people to go against a whole military group. Doesn't. I don't care how badass they are. Yes, against walkers, because they're dumb and they're slow. But when you go with people that can actually think and have machines and weapons and can strategize, you will lose. So man, I'm so upset. If you haven't noticed, I'm upset. This episode got me upset. Anything else you guys want to say? Because, we're done. That was it. We're like 30 minutes in. There wasn't a lot that happened this episode.
I agree. It is disappointing. There's only 2 episodes left for this season. I'm pretty sure that this will get a second season, because they're going to end on a cliffhanger, and they probably have already filmed the second season, but they don't want to announce it yet. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, very disappointing. I would say disappointing episode. I understand what the intent was, but it just dragged on for too long just to get to that conclusion. But just my opinion.
I feel like if we spend more time talking about this episode, then we'll be the filler.
That is true. That is true. You know. All right, people. Well, then that's it. That was our discussion and review of The Ones Who Live, season 1, episode 4. What we did you guys like it? Are you into this show still? I still want to see where they go and how they explain it, because really that's all it comes down to, right? Explaining the situation, how they can get together, resolve the situation internally as a couple, and then deal with the CRM, which is the big bad for this show entirely. I think it's always going to be the CRM, whether first season, second season, and so on. So we still don't really know Jadis's role in all of this. That's the other thing. It's like I brought up before. We don't see her with the major general and all that stuff. We don't see her as a high position. She just keeps telling Rick all this stuff, that she has these powers, that she can go and just snap her fingers and go and kill everybody that he loves and this and that. Prove it. We don't see that you're holding a position that can warrant such claims. So whatever, we will see. But thanks again for following and subscribing over on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. It's I Am Negan. And we will be back for episode 5 next week, people. So thanks and peace.